It's so easy to get in your own head about what you're not achieving and what you're not doing. And it's all too easy to forget about the real life data and the metrics, which are essentially, a brand could be making 8 figures a year, but they could also be losing 10.
Hi, I'm Lucy.
And I'm Yasmin.
And we started an online community called Ecomm Girls Club because we had no friends.
Well, no, we had friends, just not friends working in e-commerce, D2C marketing and brand building like us.
And now we do. Ecomm Girls Club is the first international community exclusively for girls in e-commerce, and we have a lot to say about it.
So we started a podcast. We'll be here each week to talk about the highs and lows of entrepreneurship, building online business and the problems we face in the e-com industry.
And we'll also be sharing the stories of the amazing women within our community who are all crushing it. So let's get into it.
You've just about had enough of me, I think.
Like, I don't know, it's not a passenger princess because you're not a passenger, but it's the equivalent of taking someone on holiday who invited herself, like, for starters.
Yeah, so we could do stuff like this, though.
Yeah, and it is great. And look, we have our, anyone watching on YouTube, we have our cups. What camera are we looking at? We need to look at the same one.
I have no idea.
I think we look at this one. Yours is better because you've got the better quality.
Yeah.
Right, I think we need to give a bit of context because people won't understand why I've had enough of you. Right, number one.
That is such a mean thing to say.
Number one, invites herself on my holiday. Fine, I'm over it.
She loves it.
Number two, wakes me up at 1 a.m, kicks me out of my... tries to kick me out of...
I'm going to let you finish and then I'm going to provide a counter argument.
No, I did fall asleep and forget to let Yasmin into the apartment at 1 a.m. But she then forcibly removed me from my double bedroom and demanded I go to the single bed.
Are you finished?
I also had to hold an umbrella for her this morning on our walk.
Are you finished?
Yeah.
Okay, so point one, around inviting myself on the trip. I can't argue with that. That's true.
And I did accept. I willingly said, please do come.
Point two, around kicking you out of your bed. That sounds way worse than the reality, which is I arranged and booked the whole Airbnb, which we've split the cost on the premise that I get the double bed. Which, by the way, I feel like is just like holiday rule 101. Whoever arranges the accommodation gets dibs on best room.
Hang on a second. Yasmin, tell everyone why you didn't arrive at the same time as me. Share with the audience why you didn't arrive on the flight that we were meant to take.
This is such a distraction.
Together.
You're deflecting.
No, that explains. It's so good.
So I have a problem. I have a problem. And I've actually, it got to the point last year where I genuinely thought it was like a mental problem. Like, not that ADHD is a mental problem, but I thought that was like the kind of thing I had. I have a habit of booking the wrong flights on the wrong days, at the wrong times, sometimes to the wrong countries. And Lucy and I were meant to fly together on Sunday night. And I booked the flight for Monday night by accident.
So then you lose your rights to the double bed if you don't get there first.
That's not the rule. I was happy for Lucy to stay in the double bed, obviously, for the night that I wasn't here. But now let's just add one key factor to this whole thing. I landed, my flight was delayed, so I got in at like 1 a.m. Guess who falls asleep with the key inside the Airbnb?
I was
So I had to message the host, who thank God was awake. And then I get in and Lucy's in the double bed fast asleep.
Yeah, but imagine this. I'm blissfully sleeping in my slumber after a very busy week. I see a flashing light on my phone and it's Yasmin. And I'm like, don't worry, I'm awake. And then I turn around and she's standing right there in the room. I had no context of how you got
so
in.
much creepier than it actually was. I literally knocked on the door. I was like, hey, Luce.
I was like, what are you here?
Yo, I made it.
Yeah.
Thankfully. Thank God.
Thanks so
I'm
much
in.
for letting me in the apartment. No, all jokes aside,
Anyway.
we have had a wonderful time so far and it is nice to be together. And we actually do, despite what you just heard, we get on very well. So we're very...
Just as well, really.
Yeah, it's almost like we run a business together.
We actually didn't really know what to talk about in today's episode because we have just done like a 2.5 hour brainstorm session on Ecomm Girls Club because like we're trying to work out really like what is the bigger goal, where do we want to take it, and like how can we keep doing what we're doing but better and bigger. So yeah, we've just kind of spent 2 hours, haven't we, talking about that.
And we've just come off the back of our biggest event update. I thought my mic wasn't on, then it is on. It's fine. I was going to get the rap.
We've recorded full episodes before where one of our mics hasn't been on.
Look, we're just not tech girlies. We're just going to put it out there.
And it's always been fine.
We figure it out. But yeah, we came off the back of our biggest event ever in London, and it was like mind blowing. We had so much fun doing it. We got to meet up to 70 girls from our community, some not even from Ecomm Girls Club, who wanted to come because they were thinking about starting businesses. It was honestly one of the best experiences I've had this year, and we had so much fun. We did it in conjunction with Nicola at Click App, and I don't know, the whole thing was just like
it was amazing
blur of fun and DJs and music and
yeah, you know, the best bit about it is the number of people who we actually spoke to were like, we listen to I listen to podcasts. I mean, it's like so surreal.
1, 2 listeners.
People are actually listening.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I feel like when we're talking like this, I feel like I'm just talking to you.
The event was so fun. Like both of us the next day though were exhausted.
I couldn't. I lost my voice within the first half an hour. I couldn't talk.
We were so excited.
It was amazing though.
Yeah.
And also whoever came to the event, who's listening to the podcast, thank you.
Yeah, a massive
so much
thank you.
to both of us.
I mean, that's the thing, we wouldn't have even done it if we hadn't have started this whole thing, and it's just a massive thank you to everyone who's supported us and what we're trying to do for women in our industry, because we just kind of saw the value 10x, right?
Yeah.
Just in the evening.
Well, we saw the value in real life, which is was so surreal, because everything we do is obviously online with the WhatsApp group, the spotlight sessions, even like the Instagram itself, everything we do. Yeah. It's all online. So like to actually have a room full of people in physical form was really overwhelming, firstly, but like also very, very surreal.
Yeah. And I think it just like gave us even more energy to do more, bigger, better, more value.
Yeah. But we're absolutely exhausted.
We are exhausted. I think, as anyone who listens to this will know, we both travel a lot, and we are very grateful we get to do that. Like, it's our lives that we've chosen, so we're cognizant that we shouldn't sit here and whinge. But it is a absolute whirlwind. Sometimes we're both living out of suitcases at the moment.
Yeah, and it's really, really full on.
It is full on.
But you're really good at it. Like, you are good at it.
I'm just hyper independent, which I think has probably caused my bad things. But like, yeah, I do get really overwhelmed when I've been in London specifically, I think, because and it's because it's where we're from, it's where our people are. So you inevitably end up running around like a headless chicken. And if you add into the mix events, and that wasn't my only event I was doing when I was there, and like seeing people and catching up with people, and it's so much fun, but it is then hard to like fit in running a business with that. And yeah, you wouldn't change it for the world, but I think anyone who runs a business will know the feeling where your eyes feel like they're going to fall out of your head because you're so tired.
Yeah, I think it's very intense.
Yeah.
But I think especially when like I just said, I guess, like everything's online.
Yeah.
And then you're all of a sudden offline, and all of like even us working like we've worked today, doing those few hours like in real life. And then doing the podcast, and it's like you're constantly on.
Yeah it is. It's hard, and I think it just never stops. There's nothing I long for that. The one thing I do miss about having a corporate job is the laptop slamming shut feeling.
Do you follow that Instagram page?
I can never repost it because it's irrelevant to my life. I'm never out of office.
Yeah, same. And I also feel if I repost it like
my clients
looks bad.
They'll be like, what do you mean you're not working? Yeah, which obviously none of my clients think that, but you just are very mindful, I think.
Yeah, it's almost like that Friday feeling that you just don't get. I actually I think I've probably gotten over that a bit now, but I think that's probably the one thing I miss about working for someone else is that Friday feeling, and like actually going on holiday and being able to fully switch off. I don't think I've actually done that in like, honestly, 7 or 8 years probably, but that's fine. I would pick that reality over the alternative, which is annual leave.
And days like today have been great. For example, so Yasmin and I woke up and worked for a few hours, and then we trotted along to the gym together, worked out for a bit. We've come back, we went and like had lunch in the centre of Lisbon, and now we're back doing the pod, and that flexibility is really cool, and it's one of the best parts of it. And you know, there's other girls in our community the same, like Rosie was able to come back from Bali early because she can, because she works for herself.
Yeah, it is. It's so cool.
There's things like that you wouldn't change for the world. I think there's probably pros and cons to both.
Yeah. We were actually talking earlier in our brainstorming session about how, like, Ecomm Girls Club, we've got members in there who are like quite established in their e-commerce journeys, and then we've got members in there who haven't even started their e-com journey. So like, I spoke to a girl at the event on Thursday night, and she just finished uni and she wants to get into e-com. And like, so she came to the event to like meet people. And I think the bar or the barrier to entry now is the lowest it's ever been in terms of getting into the space. But like, we're obviously huge advocates for it. And the lifestyle that we lead and being able to do stuff like this is obviously one of the major perks of doing it. But just to bring a bit of reality also to it, like yesterday, for example, was our first full day here. We literally worked from the apartment all day.
Yeah, we didn't go out until we went to find a margarita.
It's really good though. Oh my God, hilarious. We asked a spicy marg of, and they couldn't do it. But he was like, what we can do is we can pour some chili oil into your marg. We both looked at each other.
We're okay.
Pass.
We'll skip that one. But your point is true, and it's like, even today I've said to Yaz, like, oh, hey, like, because we plan on going out for dinners and doing fun stuff whilst we're together, because I know this is shocking, but we're actually friends. Like, just about. No, we are. And so it's so nice to spend time together. But I was like, today I need to work this evening, so I won't be able to like do dinner. And you were like, oh, that's fine. And we are like, there are good points and bad points, I guess, but that's the same with anything. And we also had a conversation last night about control over your life, which I think is super interesting, because I think that there's a narrative around like, have a safe, steady job at a big corporate. And you were surprised when I said this, but I was like, yeah, but actually that isn't necessarily the case anymore, because I worked at a very big corporate and there was a restructure every single year I was there in the team I was in. So there were people put at risk of losing their jobs every single year, and people in limbo for 2 or 3 months. And at least when you work for yourself, yes, the risk is higher in terms of you have to like put food on the table for yourself or whoever you're responsible for. But it's more in your control, if that makes sense. It's a different type of, there's not someone sitting somewhere that controls whether you have a job or not. It is down to you. It's a different kind of pressure, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's quote unquote safer having a corporate job these days, but that's my experience.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly cannot talk to the corporate world at all. Obviously you can. You've
always had control pretty much of your destiny.
Yeah, it's all I've ever known since I was like 21, 20. So I don't know. I just don't know what the alternative would even feel like right now. And I think it's like, it sounds really wanky, but I think entrepreneurialism is like a muscle, and that you do over the years, you get so used to the instability and like the almost the freedom of it all, but also the complete, is anti-freedom a term? Lack of freedom. You know what I mean. We're not functioning today.
We're on our,
but
like,
yeah,
fourth
you do.
deck,
You just get used to it, and then you become comfortable in that space, as like with anything in life.
Yeah, you adapt.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of people do find a lot of comfort in working for a big company. Like Sasha, who I do Cloth Project with, her full-time gig is, she's got a full-time job at the moment, and she freelanced for a year. So she was at Charlotte Tilbury, she was at Monica Vinader, so sick. And then she took the leap and went freelance. And after like a few months, maybe a year, she was just like, I want to go back into employment. She wanted the career progression. Like, so for her, and I guess her personality type, that's something she values a lot more than the things that you and I might value in terms of like autonomy over our schedules. And however, just like one last point, I know I ramble a lot as well. Like, I really talk a lot.
We're meant to talk, it's a podcast. But I do think it is interesting. And the other thing I think is really important to stress is like, you can try something like Sasha did. You can try something and then decide you don't like it. Like most decisions in life are like reversible or temporary, or so I think if you're curious, you can try freelancing and you can always go back into employment. There was a girl at the Value Studio who came up to me and said, I did econ at uni and I always thought I wanted to do banking and I really, really don't want to do it. So that's why I'm here, because I want to understand about how e-commerce works and what it might look like to work in an e-commerce company or start my own brand. And I was like, you're doing the right thing. Like, when you're young, especially, like, try different things. Like, you've got less to lose, I think, when you're young.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, like, and there's also no shame in doing one or the other. Like, I've got plenty of friends who are absolutely killing it in corporate careers and are so incredibly successful and amaze me all the time, and it just suits their personalities. So what's next? That's the big question we've been asking ourselves today, is what we're going to do next, which is, I think the beauty of something like Ecomm Girls Club is it was so unexpected, and it's kind of, we put a lot of work in. I'm sure anyone who comes to our events knows that or sees what we're doing, but the beauty of it is that there's so much opportunity, so we're so excited to try and bring even more valuable lessons, even more value to all our members who support us, basically. So rest assured, we are working away in the background
100%
on bigger and better things, which means Yasmin and I are spending even more time together.
Yeah, I think we're trying to record 3 episodes this week.
Yeah,
podcast
since we're together.
Yes. We're also talking about maybe doing, there's a few ideas that we've got, but we want to do definitely another Summer Value Studio next year. Mm-hmm. We've got a Hong Kong event in September.
Yes.
Which is going to be really good. Lucy's manning that ship. And then maybe like a Kickstarter thing for January, February.
Stay tuned, people.
Yeah. There's a lot in the works.
Yeah.
I think we're just still trying to define exactly what is the most valuable thing for people. Provide. I honestly think the WhatsApp group is gold.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it is. It brings me so much joy as well, because I think it's so natural that everyone just contributes.
Yeah.
It is it's amazing for us to see, and to see other people just helping each other. It's what it's all about, really. I think that's the core. And, selfishly as well, Yasmin and I are solving our own problems. We started this because we found it really lonely ourselves. And it's just been quite fortunate that our skill sets work quite well together to produce what we're trying to produce.
Yeah. I
mean, that's something else to talk about, right? It is fortunate, but when we were talking about, and I think this is important to do whatever business you have, especially if you have a co-founder, we were talking about what we wanted to do, but also how our skill sets match up to that, and who should do what, and kind of whose skills lean into different things. And we're quite lucky in the sense that, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Yaz is obviously a complete whiz at product development and defining products and optimizing products. You just know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And I would say I'm probably better on community building, because I've got more experience with that, and comms and things like that. So between us, as well as when we're talking about what we want to do, it's how are we actually going to do it, and what skill sets do we have, and what things are we not so great at. Numbers would be my observation. It's not that we can't do it, it's that we don't like doing it. We just don't like Excel spreadsheets, but
we hate Excel
spreadsheets, but we also are aware we have to do it, and we do, don't worry guys. But yeah, I think whatever you're doing, you need to, it's the classic thing they say about entrepreneurship, right? Find what you're good at and outsource everything else. When there's 2 of you, you can outsource directly to one another, to a certain extent.
Yeah, it's good. And also it's unfortunately, when there are only 2 of you in a business, or even 1 of you, you do just have to take on work that you don't want to do. Irrespective of whether you like it or not, you just have to do the work. And I think in an ideal world, you can hire and you can bring people in, but the reality of that is just, that isn't the reality when you are first starting.
There's no founder I've met that hasn't had to do things they don't want to do.
Yeah.
Even with teams, you still have to do, even if you have a team, there's certain things you can't outsource as well. Access to accounts and things, if you don't have an accounting team, you just have to do stuff, but it's so worth it.
It is worth it, because then you learn about all the things that you don't like doing. And then I think what you find is that the things that you only don't like doing things is because you think you're bad at them.
I tell you off for this all the time. You're like, oh, I'm bad at events, and I'm like, no, you're not. You just, no, you're not. You tell yourself you are, but I would say between us, we're really good at executing things, but I would say, and that is events, that you are. Anything you're asked to do for an event, you do very well.
Yeah, but I guess
because
as
you
well,
haven't done it a lot, you say you're not good at it, which is not the case.
And to illustrate my point, exactly that. Like I've always said, I'm really bad at organising things and admin, hence the flights, booking them on the wrong day.
Was quite special, I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, and like, so in my mind, I'm like, right, now if I can't even book a flight on the right day, how am I going to organise an event for 65 people?
Yeah.
So it's this kind of negative self-talk before I even start. I was like, I can't do that. I'm not going to be good at that. I think, I wonder if the older that you get and the more you kind of the more you specialise,
you think you can't.
You actually neglect these other areas of learning because you're good at the thing that you're good at, and you're probably employed to do the thing that you're good at, and so you just do that more and more and more at the expense of all these other skills that you possibly do actually have.
But then I also think, to be honest, one of the things I find way more fun about working for myself and building businesses than working in a corporate is I do learn so much.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I think I said to someone, I learned more in the first 3 months of officially running my businesses full time than I did in like the past year at my old employer, just because you have to. But yeah, I think self-talk's a really important one because it's like imposter syndrome. Everyone has it as well. And I work with a lot of founders through my agency, and they all you see them all doing it. They're like, oh, I can't, I'm rubbish at this. And they're not, is the reality, because they've got like thriving businesses. They just aren't the best at it, or it's just new to them. And then you tell yourself you're bad, but it's not that you're bad. It's just you might not be the best. And you can't be the best at everything. There's always someone better than you.
Yeah. I think it's like when you're a kid and your parents tell you you're not good at something, so then you don't ever touch it again. Like I was actually told, not by my parents, not to just come here and slate my mum.
Family therapy with Ecomm Girls Club.
It's a whole different podcast. Yeah, like I was told that I wasn't creative, so I did like English, economics, and history at A level instead of anything creative, and like I don't really know how beneficial those tools have been in my life, but I'm definitely more creative than I am like
logical
maths brain.
Yeah,
I don't know whether that's the left side. I think it's the left side, isn't it? And then right brain is
which one is
like the maths guys. But yeah, and it's kind of like I was forced to learn that about myself through work.
Yeah, I think it's like learning is a muscle as well, right? You say entrepreneurship's a muscle, but so is learning, and I mean, it's part of the fun as well, really.
I think so. I think it really is.
Like understanding I love knowing how things work.
I kind of see, particularly like having an ecom brand and being like, for example, Cloth Project, we're scaling through ads. It's so number heavy, but like the minute you kind of get your head around that and you understand what all these metrics mean and all the numbers, etc., it kind of becomes a bit of a game.
Yeah, it is.
Like even the terminology of like bidding on ads, but like it's very like gamified.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And it is like, it's a system. You got to work the system, and it is just learning. And there's something really just something really engaging about that.
But I also think it's a numbers game, but again, it's also creative because you're testing creative, that's the obvious thing, but to your point, it's a game. So it's like everyone who's running ads is trying to like hack the system and find the best way to do it.
Yeah, actually somebody told me, Jim went to this
Jim is Yasmin's partner, for anyone who doesn't know.
He went to this ecom dinner thing the other night, and he was talking to the founder and the head of growth of this, like, I won't name the brand just in case, whatever, but huge brand, ecom brand. And they were talking about bidding strategies. And Jim asked me a question, like, what's like the biggest piece of advice you'd give on when it comes to ads, or like, what's the biggest learning, whatever. And he was like, he just said holidays and weekends, as in like Christmas holidays, because they will literally manually go into the ads and bid on like specific, I'm going to butcher this because I don't really fully understand it, but this is what he was saying. Like they'll go in and like manually bid on different like keyword searches and key terms, and they're literally in there like hacking the system. It's just, for me, that's really, really fascinating. Like people even do that, because I'm just like,
and I think, but even like more broadly than that, besides paid ads, if you look at other people we've talked to on the podcast, even like the girls at Lux Emporium and Ellie, who founded and runs By Ellie Beauty, I think they both said the importance of like organic, and they went viral with organic ads. And like that's a game as well, because like how do you know what's going to go? You know, it's like such a like...
They went viral with organic content.
Sorry, not
Yeah.
ads, organic content.
Yeah.
And didn't rely on paid ads, at least in the start. And it's just... The whole thing is a game, really, because what works also changes because it's algorithms. And
I would say, like, obviously it's like amazing what all of these brands are doing. I would say to launch a brand now in today's market, 2024, and try and scaling through organic content,
it's hard.
Yeah, it's not what it was 3-4 years ago in the pandemic. But like, I guess your point is like, there's different strategies, different tactics. I guess it's like kind of picking two and doubling down on it.
But then I also know brands who shall remain nameless, but they do some, obviously they do Meta, but other than that, their whole strategy is around influencer seeding.
Really? Which can you name the brand? No.
Mm-mm. But
so they don't do any Meta?
They do Meta, but like they're heavily leveraged on influencer seeding and sending out product to influencers and getting them to produce a bit of content or like gifting and things like that to micro influencers, because not the big time influencers. And that's one of their huge levers they use for growth, which is super interesting because you hear like Meta. And I'm assuming they also have a hefty spend, but I haven't seen their account.
On like spend behind micro influencers?
No, on Meta as well.
Oh, okay.
But they do a lot of seeding.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that at all.
No,
so
I think it's...
I'm going to ask you after who the brand is.
A one-off.
I'm so curious.
One-off it, but
because I wonder why. Because like for Cloth Project, we found that our ROI is way higher on Meta compared to influencer. Like we don't really do influencer because of that reason, but our spend is obviously not massive at the moment on Meta. So, but yeah, I guess I'd be interested to know what their strategy is when it comes to influencer. And I know Asti and Vanessa actually spoke about this at our event, didn't they?
Yeah. It's such a it's one of those things I feel like 10 years ago it was such a simple thing, and now it's just this whole mammoth area. The other thing I would say in terms of a game is I see the back end a lot of content systems and creative systems with brands, because I run an agency that produces UGC and installs content systems. The difference in the way people organize and run their creative machines is also very interesting. Some people are so precise with labeling and systems and testing rhythms and all this stuff, and some people throw at a wall and stick and see what sticks. It's just interesting to observe how...
What would you say is the best?
A happy medium.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when you get so caught up in systemizing things, it takes so much time away from being creative that it can stifle you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, there's no point in producing so much content if you can't find the content that did well, and you can't pinpoint which iteration's working and all the, there's a science to it. But yeah, I think it's and it depends on the brand and how much content you're pushing out as well.
Yeah.
And if you found your hero ad and your hero product and those kind of things, there's so many variables, which is what makes ecom fun. But it is also what makes it
minefield.
Yeah, which is also what makes it really hard.
Fun, but hard.
Yeah, 100%. Hope that makes sense.
I think so.
To some extent,
Basically, I guess what we've said is you can.
There's no right way.
We always say you can do Meta, you can do influencer, probably both. A hybrid mix is good, but I think also your results are going to be different depending on your brand and your product. So like I said, for Cloth Project, our ROI is just way higher on Meta, so we've just decided to double down on that. But for another brand, like the one you were talking about, that's obviously not the case for them. Their ROI is obviously higher on influencer.
Yeah, I think the other thing is, and this question comes up a lot in the group, the WhatsApp group, and it's come up on calls we've done on paid media as well. It's how much should I spend? And how many ads should I run? And there's just no correct answer, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. When we were
hard.
Starting, I was just watching all of the YouTube videos, talking to all of the people, how much should we spend a day? And we just started off at £10 a day, which is nothing. But when you've got low budget, spending £10 a day soon racks up.
Yeah.
And And like, luckily I had Sasha, so she really knows what she's doing when it came to the ads and the campaign build out. But yeah, we just started at £10 a day. Some people are starting at like 20 quid a day, but I would start within those spaces, those kinds of areas of spend when your budgets are really low.
I work with brands that spend 6 figures a month US on ads.
Oh yeah, I think
like
that's fairly
it's
like
really,
common.
yeah, I was going to say it's like ballpark.
Yeah.
It's quite a normal thing to see. But to anyone outside of ecom, when you tell them, if you'd be like, yeah, but like people are spending like 6 figures US on their Facebook ads, they like the look of horror.
Yeah.
Like people
Yeah.
give you the like, what? And like TikTok and spark codes and whitelisting and like, all these
Yeah,
things.
but then we were talking about this yesterday about like all these headline acts that you hear and like
Comparison is the thief of joy.
7-figure brand, 8-figure brand. And it's like, I was talking to my boyfriend about this because it's so easy to get in your own head about what you're not achieving and what you're not doing. And it's all too easy to forget about the real life data and the metrics, which are essentially a brand could be making 8 figures a year, but they could also be losing 10.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we don't know the details.
And the same for agencies, you know, like they'll be saying they're doing like 7 figures, 8 figures, and doing a service like similar to yours or similar to mine with UGC. And you can work out in your head how much roughly they'd be charging for you know, like you can work out what, based on what you charge, or if you know what they charge, what that would mean in the number of clients. And then you see the size, you know, roughly the size of their team, and you're like, how does that add up? Like, what am I doing wrong? And yeah, maybe you are doing things wrong, like you can always improve, but also maybe they're not telling the truth. Like, you have to realize, like, so many big questions to answer.
Wow, that was really deep.
This is what happens. This is why we started the podcast, because we used to just have these conversations, and then it would just end up so deep. Like, we were walking back from lunch earlier, and like Yasmin unexpectedly got my life story and life trauma in like a 10-minute excerpt, and I was like, we got back to the apartment. I was like, yeah, I'm really sorry about that. And you're like, don't be sorry, I asked the question. I was like, but you weren't expecting that answer, were you? Like, just to wrap up, we did have dinner last night, and we were like, yeah, let's not talk about Ecomm Girls Club. It lasted like, we talked about like boys and girls and fun things for 10 minutes, and then straight into business chat. Yeah. Straight into it.
Like, you just can't resist.
No.
On that note, we'll wrap up.
I think that's good for today.
That was good.
I love that we're here.
Next time.
We're just keeping it real. We're tired girls. Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And to get involved with Ecomm Girls Club, search for @Ecomm Girls Club on Instagram.
And if you feel like taking your Instagram stalking one step further, we are both also on Instagram @YasminChic and @LucyCG.